We are seeing an insane amount of emergency calls every single day that people are calling every dentist in the area because they're not able to get a hold of anyone.
Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to Go Live with me, your host, Joshua Scott. I am here with a good friend of mine, actually. This is Cory Pinegar with Call Force. And hey man, thanks so much for being here today. I know you're busy for sure.
Hey, it's it's an interesting time for everyone, but the truth is, and not weirdly, we're kind of all in it together. We're all experiencing the same thing. So it's really fun to jump in and chat about what's happening.
Yeah, for sure. Cory, just so you guys know, leads a company called Call Force, based out of Utah, but a call answering and a call making service for dental practices. Cory, give us just a little bit of background on you and the company, and like how long have you guys been around? It's kind of your core services.
Yeah, so we started 3 years ago. We started as a company who did overdue reactivation for dentist offices. And it took off really well. We started gaining some traction once we understood our return on investment that we could provide for clients. And it's just slowly evolved from there. And our business mentality is that within a dental practice, there is so much untapped gold swept into corners because sometimes it's hard or inconvenient to get. And as a company, we want to help dentists capture that value so that they're as efficient and effective as possible.
Yeah. How long have you guys been doing this? When did you start Call Force?
December 2016.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, I know. I've been a big fan of yours just with, especially as we get clients investing in ad spends. Always what happens is one of the shocking statistics that comes with that is how many of those are being answered or going to voicemail. And typically if we see an ad spend, people go ad spends, like I tried Google ads, I tried Facebook ads, they don't work. And I'm like, well, chances are it's one of two things. Either a large percentage was going to voicemail and so you just weren't converting them, or you got a team member that's just not doing a decent job answering the phone. But the calls do come in. On average, like how many typical dental practice, how many calls go to voicemail?
About 28% would be a low. We see up to 32%, but yeah, right in that range, a third of calls are going to voicemail.
Yeah.
And typically on marketing spend, the more a practice spends on marketing, the more calls they miss.
Yeah, 100%. It's just math, and you can't beat that. I've told you that before. I think that's conservative from what I've seen, but I trust you. I think you've got a way wider like swath of data for sure than we do. But I mean, I've seen some. I think I saw one time like it was a Facebook campaign, and it was 7 phone calls turned into like 9 voicemails. Because like some of those phone calls kept, like those caller ID numbers kept calling back multiple times and getting voicemail. And I was like, you guys, like we can't do this.
So some popular or some myths that we can debunk. Like last year we looked at over 1.5 million calls. Wow. So we have a decent amount of data that we can kind of look at. Some popular myths are, okay, I miss calls after hours. Practices do, but over 70% of the calls they're missing, way over 70%, are during business hours.
Yeah.
And those are really common right during when you're getting in, when you're having your morning huddle, when you're checking in your first couple patients, or when you're turning on the lights on, when you're getting ready to leave, and lunch. Those times are when we see peak volume.
Yeah.
By far. And so practices have to be very aware of the problem isn't about the 6:30 a.m. patient. To be a human for a second, I'm not going to call my dentist thinking they're going to be there at 6:30. I'm probably planning on leaving a voicemail because it's an emergency.
Yeah.
Now, if I get someone on the phone, it's the best day ever, and I'm going to love my dentist even more. But what we want people to understand is once it hits 8 o'clock, there's this expectation that your dentist could or should be available. Mm-hmm. And so during that 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or a little after, make sure you have systems in place to actually have your staff answer the phone.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's one of those, I've got this like handful of things where I'm like, these are very inexpensive things to invest in your practice that make a huge return from in our kind of marketing realm. And one of them is reviews. I think using a service, like a Bird Eye or a Swell or whatever to do reviews. I'm like, literally it's probably the least expensive marketing investment you can make. You guys as well, just even from an overflow standpoint of, so many practices I go into, it's like, he goes, our team is like, we're catching all the calls. And I'm like, but you've got 3 lines or you've got 4 lines. And what you're not seeing is when all 4 of your team are on the phone, you're not seeing the ones that go to voicemail. And, chances are conservatively there's 1 or 2 a week, and that turns into, 6 or 8 a month. So I think it's a really great thing. Plus you guys do what the other part I love is nobody has time to reactivate inactive patients. And that's been another part of your guys' business that has been brilliant. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So no one has time, and more so it sucks. Like, let's just cut to the chase. On average for a dental office, and Dental Intel kind of has the same data that we do here, it takes a hygienist or a front desk assistant 21.4 calls placed during the day to schedule 1 overdue hygiene patient.
Wow.
And you just start doing that tediously, you're going to spend a little more time in the bathroom, or you're going to spend a little extra time on Facebook. And that's not a knock against anyone within the dental practice. It's the grittiness that's not as fun.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was gonna say, I think it's like, it's not, it's just not one of those tasks, even as a business owner, that you enjoy giving your team. If you have a high performing team, it's just like the drain of that is probably just not compatible with a lot of those people's personalities. So it doesn't mean it's not vital. And it's just a huge, keeping people engaged in the practice is going to cost you way less than acquiring new patients into the practice any day. So, using you guys for that's huge. Dude, so give me a little, like how's this affected you guys? I can imagine on one side, it's probably been crazy. And then on the other side, it's probably been like just,
it's been a whirlwind personally. Like, if I'm totally frank, as a business owner, I'm actually a little numb.
Yeah.
I feel like this week's been a little calmer, but last week I felt like I came in every day thinking we had hit rock bottom, or that the 2x4 had already hit me for the day. And it ceased to amaze me because, at first some offices were closing, and then the ADA released recommendations, and then states started to mandate. And then frankly, panic started to ensue within the dental community. And we were fielding calls from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day of very concerned and rightly concerned dentists. How am I going to make it, and what can I do?
Yeah.
And so it's been a very interesting week, and we're now coming to terms, obviously, on our outbound services. There's no point, frankly, right now of doing that. But then on the inbound side, dental offices are getting less calls in total volume, but a lot of them are closed. And we spoke about this before we got on. And so all of those calls are passing through to us right now. And we are seeing an insane, in truth, to me, it really is insane amount of emergency calls every single day that people are calling every dentist in the area because they're not able to get a hold of anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad you're here and you're saying that, because that was self-servingly. I was like, last week I'm going, this is what's going to happen. Is I'm watching social media and every practice is putting up the we're closed. And for me, what I was pushing back out there was I'm like, I'm not sure closed is the right word, because if you do that, it gets in people's heads and then they just start calling around to go, well, who is open? And so, I can imagine that's like, yeah, so you guys are fielding those calls. Are just people trying to go, who's open?
Yeah. And to be totally transparent, we have had a spike in demand on our answering service that has been overwhelming. And so actually all members of our team, myself included, actually take an additional shift per day. We're seeing upwards of 600 calls in an hour sometimes.
Wow.
And it's been very hard for us to staff and train that
Yeah.
in a short amount of time. I mean, in 7 days, we've doubled in usage per hour.
Gosh, that's crazy.
And so I can actually sit on here and say for 5 hours yesterday, I sat and took calls. And it probably makes today's conversation even more relevant, because I can tell you, I spoke with 10 to 20 patients yesterday who had severe swelling,
Mm-hmm.
who had, need for extraction and wanted to be seen right away. And I understand that emergency dentistry is not the highest paying or highest compensating version of dentistry,
Right.
but it still is cash flow.
Yeah.
And the real long-term game that we should be looking at here is those patients are going to be loyal to you, most likely. I don't have any hard data to back that up, but if someone helps me in my time of need, I'm most likely going to go back to them because they were there, and it's developed that relationship of you helped me when I need it. And naturally, as humans, we develop and maintain those relationships more.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love that you're saying that, because that's been my perspective through this, and I know you've probably seen it as well. But I've taken a little bit of heat from it. I know a lot of our practices have too, of just from other dentists in the community that have shut down, that then are critical of the others that are staying open. Which for me feels like a lot of just defending your own position. Like if you had to shut down, then everybody else should shut down, and we just kind of just get defensive of that. But I think for me, it was less, and I've had clients push back and go, Josh, we can't run an office on emergencies, and I'm like, I don't know that that's the point though. And I think like, if you think that's the point, I think we're missing it here, of just the posture of serving towards a community to go, hey, we're here. And maybe some dental practices just even underestimate their influence and their impact of people trusting them as a healthcare provider in their area, to just even for answers for like maybe a family or friend that's having pain, and they're like, hey, can they come see you? Like all that type of stuff that's going on. So I mean, it sounds like you guys are, you seeing that out there? Like what's the vibe been in Utah?
So we don't have a ton of cases yet. We're at 400 cases. Everything is closed, and certain counties are stay at home. Our state is not stay at home. But I mean, it's been crazy.
Yeah.
So Utah's an interesting state. We had the highest spend per capita during the food rush, just because
Okay.
people were ready for whatever you want to call it. And so I found that pretty interesting, but it's been, very few cars are on the road every day out here. We have a very, very minimal amount of employees coming into the office just to keep our core infrastructure up. And besides that, to be honest, I think work has been so busy trying to react to everything properly that I haven't really taken much time to say, okay, what's generally happening around me besides that.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you, I know, Utah, the other uniqueness about where you guys are at is it's kind of the epicenter of everything, all things tech and innovation in dentistry. For whatever reason, I kind of joke with people. I'm like, there ought to be like these tour buses that,
dentists can come out.
Yeah. From one company to there's Dental Intel, there's Weave, there's Callforce, there's, what have you been staying in touch with anybody? What's kind of been the professional vibe out there just with the industry overall? Did I lose you? Did you cut out? Let me see. You froze up here on my end. Can you still hear me? Well, we'll see if we can get Cory back here in a second. There you are. Gotcha. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. No, I don't know what you heard last. I said, what's been the professional vibe out there? And have you been staying in touch with anybody in the community?
Yeah. So I think there's a very hunker down that there is going to be some long-term ramifications because of this. And to be frank, we don't know exactly what those long-term ramifications are going to be. But my personal feeling is that businesses are going to be more respective of how much they have in cash reserves, and businesses are going to trim unnecessary expenses.
Yeah.
And frankly, that's what we've done ourselves, because we had to say, how many months can we survive as a business with reduced income?
Yeah.
While maintaining our team members. And so we've had to say, okay, this is necessary and this is unnecessary. And long term, I think some of the scarring that comes from this will last for a year or 6 months or even longer.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's fair. I know that we always, anytime we have an adjustment, a correction like this economically, it's always, we always get some of that stuff where it's good of just dentistry has been so opportunistic the last 3, 5, 10 years. I think part of that we're seeing that, and that's affected this cycle is a lot of people were reinvesting, whether it was tech or another location or more providers or whatever, marketing, like everybody was opportunistic growing, that it's left some people probably a little over leveraged during this time, which has been difficult.
I think inside of dentistry and outside of dentistry, companies now more than ever, because of 10 years of a bear market, are, very over leveraged, or 10 years of a bull market.
Yeah. Yeah. We definitely got some people online watching, so I just want to throw a shout out there. I know Josie's on. Hey, Josie, what's up? She said she used you guys at Carolina's Dentist and was so helpful, kept the schedules full. The team is great to work with as well, so that's awesome. Any of you guys online watching, throw some questions at Cory, throw them in the comments. I'm watching those over here on the side as well, and I'll make sure to get them his way. So the whole thing with emergencies, so I mean, obviously you guys are experiencing the spike. What are you predicting with that? I mean, obviously that was the first 2 weeks of this. I would imagine most people, if they're calling into a dental practice for an emergency, it's because it's really an emergency. What do you see that trend doing over the next 2, 4, 6 weeks?
I'm no genie, but I actually see it staying very consistent. I mean,
yeah.
And the more practices that are closing, the more people are going to have to be calling around.
Yeah.
And then there is the funny cases of like people will call in saying, "Hey, I have some extra time. Can I get my cavities filled?" You're like, "Wait a second, like we're emergency only." And someone said to one of our team members yesterday, he's like, "Okay, well, how much pain do I need to be in then?" And we're like, "Oh my goodness, what is it?" Some people are just taking this as some downtime, but most of the emergencies that we're running into are very true dental emergencies where there is significant bleeding, significant swelling, 8 out of 10 on the pain level, where there are very real cases that we do need to keep these patients out of the emergency room.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you guys, are you communicating with your practices, like on just their protocol? I mean, obviously if you're answering emergency calls, then they want to be able to see those, but are you getting updates on I know PPE is going to be a big thing going into the next couple of weeks, and some practices, whether or not I know some are telling us right now, like they're probably running out in the next week or two. So how have you been staying in touch that way?
We are sending out pretty consistent forms to our practices to stay up to date on, are you completely, and I don't want to use this word lightly, but closed, and we have to bring you into the office in case of an emergency? Or is the doc there for 8 hours a day looking to see whoever does call? Yeah. And so we're really trying to stay in very good communication right now.
Yeah.
So that if something does change, we're not putting them in awkward situations.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because it's like staying open for emergencies means all kinds of things right now. I know I was communicating with one of our practices in New York City yesterday, and she's like, "We're doing our best to stay open," but she's like, "Just from a PPE situation, we're probably, yeah." She's like, "We're probably a few days away from just having to shut down completely because we just don't have the personal protective equipment." We got a question out here. How would you recommend navigating an emergency patient that's coming from another dentist that's closed?
That's what we're really unsure of too, to be frank. I mean, because most people are seeing emergencies only for current patients. And so as an outside company, we're just providing that information to the dentist. So we send out an urgent notification that says, Cory Pinegar, who is not a current patient, is in an emergency situation. Here's his pain level. Here's what he's experiencing. And then we allow the dentist to make those personal decisions. I didn't go to dental school. I'm not trained on that. So I don't know the whole rules behind it, but we're trying to take all the information, provide it to the dentist, and then let them make the decision from there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's sensitive for sure. And I think that's been some of the, just the accusations out there is like, you're trying to stay open to pick up patients during this time. And look, it's not, is that happening? Probably. Is that best practice? No, not at all.
And I think there's two different ways of looking at it, Josh. You could say we're staying open to take new patients, or we're staying open to do the right thing. We're staying open to keep our emergency system not bogged down. And so there's malicious intent of, okay, let me take all the emergency patients for my gain, or there's doing the right thing as a dentist and a human being and seeing emergency patients that eventually could lead to a greater situation is the right thing to do right now. Now, obviously you need the right PPE. You need to decide morally what's right or wrong, but we still need to be doing dentistry for the community.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you, for sure. What's interesting now too, though, is just even I think the ADA issued some guidelines, this week or last week about how to even just make sure that your offices are clean and kind of like, doing check-in at the car with the patient. I think there's even some regulations about like an operatory not being used for 3 hours after, like cleaning it, and then it can't be used for 3 hours. But then yet like in the proper PPE, but then like we're requesting all the PPE for the emergency rooms and hospitals, but yet we don't want dental emergencies to go to the emergency. We want them to stay with you guys. So sometimes I'm like, man, if you're in this situation, it's just hard to navigate because on once you're supposed to we're supposed to do this, but we got to give all of our stuff here. And then, so, I mean, it's tricky for sure, man.
It's brutally hard for businesses, for dentistry. I mean, everyone has been, and not to change gears even slightly. I mean, this storm came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I remember sitting at home in February being like, wow, this is hitting Wuhan really hard. And then it hit somewhere in the United States, and 7 days later it's just changed businesses forever.
Yeah.
In a very significant way. So, I mean, it's what a time to be alive.
I know. Were you guys scheduled to be down at Delivering Wow at that conference? I was just saying, man, I thought I saw you ahead of time. And I remember getting there and going, oh yeah, Cory didn't make it. Was that a last minute decision based on this?
Yeah, no. So it was, this is a good conversation.
Okay.
So it was what Delivering Wow started Thursday. And so we had, or maybe Wednesday, one of those days.
Yeah.
We had a flight at like 5 a.m. to get to New Orleans. And Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz was the first like very public name to test positive.
Yep.
And I was up at Salt Lake for dinner, and I remember like opening up my phone and seeing a notification from ESPN saying like the Oklahoma City Thunder arena evacuated, Rudy Gobert test positive. I'm like, holy smokes, what is happening? And that's, I think, in my opinion, and I'm a huge sports fan, so obviously it carried more weight for me.
Yeah.
But that's when I was like, this is real.
Yeah.
And we better get prepared to have all of our workers go remote as soon as possible.
Okay.
And so we kind of made the decision that we needed all hands on deck as quickly as possible to get our infrastructure up for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We made the call to not head out and spend those next 2 days kind of preparing everything.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that was, we were there, I was speaking. And so it was just an interesting situation because we left, it started on Thursday. We had flights on Wednesday afternoon to get there. And for me, it was Wednesday afternoon, evening was the tipping point. And it was, I think we landed, and man, within an hour or two, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver just suspended the season. And I was like, what? And then the NCAA cancels, the Hinman. Yeah. And all of a sudden we're just like, but then you have to kick into that mode of, okay, it's conference mode. We're speaking, we're working. And so you just like hearing these, every time you're in a conversation, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? And it was this very surreal, weird bubble
Yeah.
That we were in. So, and I think Anissa was in a really interesting spot because it was just like, it was in that, do we do it? Do we not? And, she's been through Zika and some other stuff. And so I think she was like, hey, it's important that we all come together right now. And, and I think she made a good call. It was a ton of fun and really valuable. But man, we came back Sunday. It was just like a whole different world.
That Wednesday to Sunday is where it became very relevant to the entire United States.
Yeah. 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 And thinking about Adam as NBA commissioner, it's Adam Silver. Is it Silverman?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's Adam Silver.
Yeah. I think it's Adam Silver. But just, I don't know, thinking about like leadership and the people that have stepped up, I think what he's done with the NBA has been amazing from a leadership standpoint, branding, just increasing the brand around the world. But it's like when you see people do that, and one of the first people to step up and go, boom, we're out. This is the best decision. Even when there's political leaders that are just kind of going, hey, this is going to blow over. We're not sure. I mean, I look back and go, that was a leadership decision, not only for the NBA, but for like the country as well.
No, he was being such a major organization, and basketball in the last couple of years has become more and more relevant.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that is true leadership. And Adam Silver has been someone who has significantly, with David Stern being, an assister to that, someone who really has. And we have to say, how as leaders in our own business, can we make the right long-term decisions that are better for our employees and better for the community? And those are the fine lines that are really hard to fight while still doing the right thing for your business.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. And just even, I mean, when those decisions came down, like realizing how many millions of dollars are associated with that and how almost like, him and the NCAA just didn't blink. It was like, this is what has to happen. Was crazy for sure. Man, what have you had to tell some of your key team members? Like, how have you guys been navigating this? What's been your strategy there?
We've tried to have a morning huddle. So at 10 a.m. our time every morning, we send out yesterday's numbers and we quickly have a morning huddle just so that everyone's on the same page and feels transparent about the business. There's a lot of fear in business right now, and especially within dentistry because offices are closing. And so there was uncertainty during our team. And so what we're trying to do every morning is saying, here's what we're getting done today. Here are the numbers from yesterday so that no one feels scared about where does their job stand or where does the company stand. And so we're trying to say financially, here's where we are. Here's our cash on hand. Here's the amount of months we can go with no money. And here's what we're getting done, because this is really an interesting time where some people could say, okay, well, I'm going to hunker down and just weather the storm. And we're trying to say, okay, we're going to weather this storm, but let's also get out of this and be more innovative than ever. Let's use our downtime to say, where are things that we didn't have time to fine tune? Yeah. And let's use these next 6 weeks and come out of this and say, hey, we are so much better. Let's crank on development. Let's look at our long-term products. Let's look at our systems and policies. And we're really trying to say, let's come out of this way better than ever.
Yeah. That's interesting. So you guys, I mean, you're transparent with it from even a numbers perspective of going like in a sense, hey, we're good for the next 2 months and 5 days, but they could start seeing that dwindle. And then it's like 1 month and 15 days or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate enough that we have a certain amount of cash on hand, and we're actually able to most days add to our cash on hand. So we're not eating it yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
It hasn't been a dismal thing of like 4 months and 3 days, 4 months and 2 days, but I'd rather be very transparent. And this isn't happening to us, but if it came to it and we say, okay, we're now dwindling, I'd rather go to our team and say, hey, we're all going to take, well, the leaders, true leaders, or the owners are going to slash their salaries to zero. And then we would request everyone else, take a 15% pay reduction, because my belief is that one shouldn't suffer and that we all should lose a minimal amount so that one person isn't left out in the cold.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's good. I've been hearing a lot of that around the industry for sure of just how to approach it. I mean, we've been fortunate where we haven't had to make any short-term decisions. And I think the question is just looking forward of, yeah, I mean, we can make it happen, for 2 to 3 months and get by. But it's just, if this goes 5 months, 6 months, 9 months, are we going to be in a position to survive that? And if not, then I think that's the game right now is, okay, if this goes longer,
The frank matter, Josh, is if this is 6 months, we're probably all screwed. Like,
I know
it's the pretty reality that, like, I've just had to say of, like, hey, you know what? If we're 5 months into this thing, most small businesses and large corporations are in a world of hurt.
I know. Dude,
we'll be sinking our ship with everyone else if we need to.
Man, to be honest with you, like last night, Joanna and I were sitting there and we're kind of flipping back and forth from CNN and Fox. And, number one,
feedback there.
I know. And number one, I'm like, wow, these channels are so political for being news channels, it was insane. And on one side, Trump is going, hey, the country needs to reopen by Easter, right? Like, we need to get businesses going again. On the other side, CNN is going, the country, I mean, big graphic, could be, coronavirus could last 12 to 18 months. And I'm like, and it's just crazy seeing the ideologies there, because like on a Democratic side, you're going, it's like virus, like, yeah, we got to shut down for 12 to 18 months. And in my head, I'm going, how do you do that? Like, how do you get income? How do you get food? All that. And it's like, well, business will take care of it. The government will take care of it. Right. And so that's on one side. On the other side, Trump's going, business has to come back. Like, it's Republican. It's capitalistic. Like, the only reason the government has money is because of business. And so if the business shuts down, like, we could be in a Great Depression type situation and there will be no money.
Are we going to have people? I was talking to one of the founders of Weave yesterday, or maybe 2 days ago. And the conversation is, are we going to have people die from illness, or are we going to have people die from hunger? And that's actually the debate that we hit long term of what are we doing?
Yeah.
I'm not making the call on that.
Yeah, no, I know. I think that's what's interesting. And I feel like at some point, there's going to have to be, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know that it's one or the other. And we tend to talk in these binary black and white kind of worlds, but I think there's going to have to be some type of just plan to ease regulations, to open things back up. Maybe it's sector by sector or however, state by state type thing.
I did see, and not to make this a huge coronavirus talk now, I did see an update come through about an hour ago that the Trump administration is now backing off the Easter approach as well.
Yeah. I think he got a ton of criticism for it, but it was just like interesting to see the parallels of Easter and then like 12 to 18 months. And, the fact is the truth is going to be somewhere in the middle. And I'm not sure that either of those stances are helpful right now for sure. Dude, what are you doing to stay up? I mean, I'd imagine just going to bed at night, getting back up in the morning has to feel like a weight most days. Like, how are you getting yourself through it? What are you doing for your mindset?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because I also think we have to look at as a company and as business owners, if we can survive this storm that was, out of nowhere, we can do anything.
Yeah.
And so this is a really cool period where, yes, businesses are affected greatly, but I think we'll look back someday and say, we're glad we went through that because it fundamentally changed how we operated our companies. And so for me, it sucks. But almost everyone who lives a significant part of their lifetime goes through the dot-com boom, the 2008 recession, the Great Depression. And so I'm grateful at the same time that we're able to go through this so that we can learn how do we take care of our employees, but take care of our businesses, and how do we manage cash flow. So first of all, it's not just like, oh, this sucks to be a part of, but I'm grateful that I get the opportunity to prove to myself that I can make it through this.
Yeah.
Second of all, you gotta sleep at night, even though it's very easy to stay up reading Facebook comments and getting people's opinions. And for me, I bike. I have a bike that I get on for an hour a day, and just kind of plugging in my headphones and cranking up the music has been a release for me. And as long as I've done those things, and I golf as well,
Okay.
it felt very like, on Sunday, I think I went and putted for 2.5 hours, and I walked back to my car saying, like, I feel so good.
Yeah.
And I feel so ready to take on Monday and take on the challenges that we're presented with, because it's morphing me into a better person.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Are golf courses there open or no?
So 90% of America's golf courses are currently shut down.
Yeah.
There's one or two that are private around here. What they do is they pull up the cup. So
Okay.
your ball just taps the cup and there's no flags. And then you have to take one cart per person.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I live on a golf course here. And what was interesting is the golf carts. I mean, we're on the 7th hole, and every day golf carts still out there. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, it'd be one thing if people were just walking, because they just get on the course themselves and go walk it. But I mean, they're still letting golf carts out. I'm like, I'm not sure that that's the wisest thing right now.
No, and golf is an interesting industry, which is very cash strapped. And so I think any golf course who has the chance to stay open, whether it's ethical or moral or not, is making the decision to try to keep alive.
I know.
And that's the fight. Like, and there's no right answer to it, but business owners and employees are put in this position right now of work is necessary, but also the right thing to do is to reduce the spread and to social distance. And how do we fight those two lines? And it's really hard.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think my stance has been one of empathizing with that and going, yeah, like that's the goal is we got to maintain a business, but we got to like flatten this curve. And the fact is there's a spectrum and everybody's making decisions within that. And some people are more on one side, some people are more on the other. I'm not trying to fault them. I'm not trying to make this a right or wrong, good or bad conversation. I'm trying to empathize and go, like, I get it on both sides for sure.
And there's one last point that I was talking to someone last night that I think is really interesting is people, it's been interesting in America. People are so grateful for work right now. And I think it's such a healthy thing that we are developing that I'm now, so some days work has sucked, but every day that I go to work and I'm able to collect a paycheck, I'm so grateful for the opportunity. Yeah. And the more people I talk to, the more echoing that I hear of that. And before I'm not sure I heard that very often.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you. Now, when you bike, are you actually going out, or you got a bike like in your house?
No, I have a little stationary bike.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah. I think that's been key for me too. Is the getting up, like actually the sleep thing's been an issue because the kids have been staying up so late that now I'm getting into bed later. And, but regardless of just getting into that, a little bit of morning routine for me to just make sure like I'm putting into myself and I'm getting focused and the right mindset before I jump into everything. And then usually I'm good to about 3, 4, 5 o'clock. And typically as the day starts wearing on you, just dealing with everything. And so then just getting a workout in, going out for a run, whatever, to kind of reset before the evening has been huge. So yeah, it's been interesting, man. Michael Arias is on, and he said, if it lasts 6 months or more, I say we all join forces and be the marketing advisors for Charmin Ultra's competition, maybe on the Continental side.
We'll start Purell's competition too.
Yeah, insane. Yeah, Dan O'Rourke is on. Hey guys, what's up? Yeah, man. I guess we'll kind of wrap things up here. I appreciate you taking time to be on for sure. I know everybody's super busy right now and taking a break from making calls to jump on the show.
No, guys, we're all in it together, and in all frankness and seriousness, it's a crazy time, but if we use each other's wisdom and advice, and we also just realize that someday, the light's red right now and it's going to turn green. Like there's no, someday we're going to have another option. And it's about doing the right thing right now to weather the storm. And someday we'll be back to dentistry as is, and we'll be grateful that we did learn what we did learn, I believe.
Yeah. No, I think some of my thoughts, just looking towards the future, I mean, dentistry has always been fairly recession proof. And so the unique part right now is like, we're really actually not dealing with a recession currently. We're dealing with a public health threat, which we've never really seen to this magnitude. So it's different. I think coming through it, there's the potential for a recession is going to be there. But even if so, dentistry is always performed at the top for industries during that time. So, I think there's tremendous opportunity there. I know from our standpoint, we're looking ahead and going, we had a good new client week actually, which was interesting, but it's just, just what people see, man. Right now, some people are like, hey, we're shut down for a couple of weeks. This is a really great time to work on our brand. And I'm like, yeah, definitely is. But I think it's going to be a tremendous opportunity on the other side of it too, of just, I can't imagine what your guys' just demand's going to do once we get through this and people realize the importance of having their phones answered.
Yeah, and the last note I'll make, I could talk for days, but there's ways, and we're going to release a PDF on how to do that in Open Dental and EagleSoft and Dentrix. You can basically say from the first day we shut down or we're mandated to close to the day we open back up, you can pull a very quick list that will show you they missed hygiene or unscheduled treatment. It is paramount that when we start coming out of this, that we hunker down as an office and get these people back on the schedule.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the sooner you do that, the sooner you have a full schedule and you'll be filling out again. And so we want to provide that information of here's the quickest way to pull that report in a simplistic manner with phone numbers and what they missed. Once you have team members come back in 1 or 2 days before you open up, start calling and get people scheduled so that the day you open, you're busy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. Especially if practices find themselves in a situation where they're strapped on getting staff even back, or they're shorthanded on hours, being able to look to you guys to help for that would be amazing. Yeah. Dude, what do you think? I actually meant to ask this earlier. So this is probably just a good topic to end on, or good last question, but the whole kind of teledentistry thing coming around now. I mean, it's not anything new, but obviously that kind of virtual consultations are getting a ton of attention. Where do you see that? How do you guys define teledentistry? What do you see as the opportunity for that in the future coming out of this?
To be totally transparent and honest, I haven't read a thing about it because I think we've been so deep in trying to respond to the situations that we've faced. I've seen a lot of Facebook comments on it, but I have not read into it at all, just because right now has been such a crazy time. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I mean, honestly, I think a lot of what you guys do is teledentistry, and it's just making sure that you're maximizing your use of phones. But yeah, a lot of virtual consult type stuff popping up, which I think is really interesting. And I definitely see a place for it in practices in the future, especially those doing a little bit more high-end procedures where they need to connect with patients a little bit more quicker than just getting them into an appointment. And I see a lot of like maybe implant procedures, a lot of like, full arch restorative, that type of stuff. If you can connect with somebody virtually online first and maybe vet that out before we actually take up chair time or office time, that could be a huge benefit in establishing trust. So I think that could be an opportunity that comes out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, it's been, that definitely hasn't been a very quick involvement. I just don't know enough right now to even start to form opinions, but that will be my reading tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, I think you guys play into that conversation. So that'd be interesting to ask. Like, I think there's teledentistry where people are referring to literally virtual consultations, but then I think there's teledentistry of going like maximizing your telephone use to profit, to run a profitable business. And I think you guys fall 100% into that. So, that if that starts to pick up steam, you guys may want to think about how you play into it as well.
Yeah, that's actually very, very, very interesting.
Yeah. So, cool, man. Well, look, I really appreciate it. Wish you guys the best. Stay strong. Please let me know, just even personally, if there's anything we can do to help you guys. Would love to do that. So,
well, anyone who needs help from Call Force as well, we're all ears and willing to do what's right for dentistry for the long term right now.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's been kind of the common theme here on my lives this week. And I've got another full week next week. I think we're going to go one more week of just every day. So we've got 3 full weeks, everyday lives. And then we're going to see where it goes from there. But it's kind of been a fun thing. But I think, but the common theme is like every time I write a post, like I'm writing all the posts for next week, right? Because we schedule some things out, and so I'm introducing guests for next week. And anytime I do, I just want to be like, look, these are great people. Like Cory's on and he does this and that, but he's just a great guy. And that's been the way a lot of how I do business is, if you're somebody I like, you're somebody we trust and get along with, and you're a stand-up guy, then yeah, let's talk and be in this together. So, you're here because, look, I love your business and respect it, but you're also here because you're a great guy. So yeah, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. Look, enjoy your weekends. Enjoy the mountains. I know spring there is probably beautiful. It's right around the corner.
It snows some days and it's 70 the next day. So we're figuring out where we stand.
Yeah, I get that. We're actually supposed to have a 70-degree day tomorrow, and it's supposed to be sunny. So it's going to be pretty epic, I'm sure, in the neighborhood here. So, all right, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.